Hey! Nikita Koloff, the Russian Nightmare! And you're watching the #1 show on Long Island with Monty and the Pharaoh.
Hey, Marilyn, Hulk Hogan here. You got yourself a good man. I hear her go, get the out of here.
All right, welcome back to Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast, Monty and the Pharaoh. We're welcoming our special guest, Mr. Lance Oram. Lance, how are you, sir?
All right, guys, how we doing?
Do you have a right to look into people who still wear fanny packs, though? That's a big deal, and it really should be against the law at this point.
Yeah, how do you pat down those fanny packs?
Well, the scary thing is, I've been retired like 11 and a half years, and they were almost still in fashion before I left. So, I think if I stopped somebody today and they had a fanny pack on, they'd already have a strike against it.
Let me ask you, not to make this about Eric Sims, but Eric obviously hooked us up with you, which we thank him for.
Yeah.
But when he came and visited you with his family, were you embarrassed that this guy comes visit you with a fanny pack on?
Be honest with you, the trained observer that I am, I don't remember him having a fanny pack, but
Okay.
no, he was. When they first told me, they came in the back to get me because it's a big nightclub restaurant. And they said, this guy out front looking for you. And I didn't, I said, who? I figured it was some friend, some hanger-on that wanted to use my name to get in for free or something. They said, Eric Simpson. I paused for a second. I'm like, oh, yeah, that guy. And I hadn't met him yet. So, no, he was very nice, and it was a pleasure meeting him.
I hadn't met him yet. So what's a hanger-on trying to get in for free?
They're like, some dude with a fanny pack is here.
Yeah. What?
And they're like, what?
Strike one. Anyway.
They would have probably, whoever came back and told me, I think it was one of the bouncers, they would have delivered it up a little differently if the guy was wearing a fanny pack. They said, hey, one of your close associates is here with a fanny pack. So, I would have been prepared.
Who is Lance Oram?
Lance Oram's an old guy right now, and back in the day, I did 25 years in the state police. I graduated the academy in January of '86. I retired in February of 2011, and it was a great run. Had a lot of great experiences, met a lot of awesome people, had a lot of weird happen. And today, I don't think I'd want to do the job today, but I would never discourage any young person that comes up to me and asks me, what do I think? Should they think they want to be a cop, a trooper, whatever? I said, yeah, no, go for it, because the world's constantly changing. It's always peaks and valleys. So, God, if they choose that path.
How hard has it been watching how cops have been
It's
portrayed?
disgusting. Everything with this country is just disgusting anymore. I'm just so fed up, and I'm sure I speak for 95% of all cops and troopers, and we don't get it. I mean, I was in the military before the state police. I was in the military for 4 years. I just don't understand anything about today. The youth, the dumb youths I deal with at the nightclub I work at, I just want to slap their parents. I don't get anything.
Yep, I can see that. You had some experience with Hector Macho Camacho, I believe?
Yeah, well, that was probably not within the same year or within a year after the incident with the Sheik and Hacksaw. We were at, I don't know if you're familiar with the Garden State Parkway around exit milepost 82. There's like a little substation there, little building in the middle of the north and south. It's called Pleasant Plains. And I was in there with like 3 or 4 other troopers. We were just figuring out where our next assignment was going to be for the day. And all of a sudden, like a Lamborghini pulled in, and I'm like, "Look at this car! What does this guy want?" And the doors open from the side there, like the wingtip doors. it was a Lamborghini, maybe it was a Lotus, whatever it was, out of my pay grade. And this little dude gets out and he's covered in gold, and one of the troopers go, "Ooh, who's this bag?" And all of a sudden he jumps out and he's got the big macho and gold, medallion on. And I look and I go, "Oh, macho, Camacho." And he goes, "Hey, troopers, what's up? What's up?" He goes, "Which way is New York?" Just fucking around. And so he came over, chatted us with us for a while, took some photos, and he was really a nice guy. I think he wanted to meet us. He saw us standing there. I think he just wanted to pull in, and he certainly loved the celebrity, and he was probably in his peak back then. So it's a shame he passed too, but he went down a bad road, I guess. But
Yeah.
he was pretty funny that day. He just caught us off guard,
All right, Lance, let's do it. On May 28th, 1987, the wrestling world was turned upside down. So tell us, the cop who killed kayfabe, if you can, what went on that day, coming from your eyes, please.
Sure. So anyway, as I stated earlier when we were having a little pre-meeting, that day, this is 35 years ago, I had I think 15, 16 months on the job at the time. So I was a fairly young trooper. And myself and another trooper were heading northbound on the Parkway, going to a detail. And, I saw a troop car making a stop southbound in the median. And you always back up, another police officer when you see him on a stop. So, we slowed down, we rolled over, and I looked, and I can remember distinctly. It's hard to remember much about that day, but I remember as the driver, I guess was Hacksaw, exited the vehicle. I saw the vehicle raise up 3 inches. And I'm like, oh, look at the size of this guy. And then Sheik got out of the passenger side, I believe. And so myself and the other trooper that was following me, we get out of our cars and we go walking over. And I knew the trooper who stopped them. He said that they were, Pete Brancotti, great guy. I called him. I actually reached out. I hadn't talked to him in years. I reached out for him to see if he wanted to participate in this interview. And he was like, he's a very humble, laid back guy. He said, "No, I'm good." He goes, "But, tell him I said hi," or whatever. So I said over to him, I go, "What do you got going on here, Pete?" He goes, "This knuckleheads just went by me drinking a beer." And he goes, "And I smell weed coming out of the car." And I go, "All right." So now they're getting out of the car and I'm looking at him and I'm looking at the Sheik. And I kind of recognize him. And I'm like, I know this guy from somewhere, And so he said, "Do me a favor, keep an eye on them. I'm going to, check the car further." So as I'm looking at him and I look at him, I go, "Iron Sheik?" And he turns around, he goes, "Yes, sir, yes, sir." And he thinks now we're buddies. He starts coming towards me. I go, "I don't want to shake your hand, bro. I just want an ID, So just around that time, the other troop, he finds the Sheik's, Aladdin booties, those curly Q booties, and I guess they're in the back seat. He turns them upside down. He goes, "Hey, Sheik, I guess these belong to you." And turns them upside down, and an 8-ball of Coke falls out. So I'm like, "Oh, Sheik, you're in trouble now." So, and basically, he cuffed them, and, we made sure they were secure, and that was the end of my participation in that story. But right before we put the cuffs on them, I had an old Polaroid in my car, old Polaroid camera with it, shoots out the picture. And, it's BC, before cell phones. And I said, "Hey, Sheik." And he didn't realize he's under arrest yet. And that's when I took that picture. And then the next thing you know, "Okay, you're under arrest." And he was like, "What?" And
Wow.
so unfortunately, and in retrospect, and as I said earlier, all these years later, looking at it, through today's lens, and in a much more mature perspective, I feel bad, as far as I can tell, it kind of ruined these guys' lives. And yes, they're absolutely wrong. And, they got to be punished. But unfortunately, and then I found out subsequent after that, when I just talked to the other trooper last week, he said the next day he went to work and all the news stations were out in front. And he was like, "Holy." And he tried to just get in and get out and get on the patrol. And his sergeant made him go out and give an interview. So that's when I think it really broke loose at that point, because the word got out.
Are you amazed all these years later, the impact of this one particular day?
Oh, absolutely. And I alluded to earlier, the funny part for me, 17 years later, So I have a friend. He's a gold medalist. And he won the gold medal in the 2004 Olympics in Greece in the men's 8 rowing. One of the few times America ever won the gold medal in the men's 8 rowing.
Okay.
And he got invited to Monday Night Football in the owner's box. So I think like Leon Hess owned the Jets back then. So it was Monday Night Football, Jets in Miami. And he was racing down the turnpike because this was 2004, so 17 years later. The Olympics were in August. I think this was like October, and he's on his way to have lunch at the White House with the president, who I think was Bush then. And he calls me in my office. He goes, "Hey, bro," he goes, "I'm running late." He goes, "I'm flying down the turnpike. I got to be at the White House for lunch." I go, "Oh, life's real tough, isn't it, buddy?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Listen, if I get pulled over, can I use your name?" I said, "Yeah, no problem. Just call me." And of course, we have cell phones now. So he goes, "Yeah, check it out. I was in New York this morning shooting a commercial for the next Olympics," because New York was throwing her hat into the ring, to all the countries and states. They all lobbied to host the Olympics.
Oh, yeah.
And he said all the gold medalists were in New York. He goes, "I met this hot chick. She's some kind of VIP person with the Jets. She invited me to Monday Night Football." I go, "You bastard." I go, "Life is real tough." And he goes, "I got 2 questions." I go, "Does she have a friend, and can you bring a friend?" He's like, "Let me call you back." So he calls me back in 10 minutes. He's like, "Dude, you're in." He goes, "Can you get us parking?" I go, "Oh, yeah, I'll get us parking at Giant Stadium." So off we go to Monday Night Football, and we're in the owner's box. And again, 50-yard line. I mean, I've never been in a box before, much less the owner's box.
Sure.
And it's all, filthy rich people. I was the dumbest, poorest guy there. All the foods, shrimp cocktail, Chateaubriand, a bar, hot waitresses. I go, "This is awesome." I'm not even watching the game. I don't give a about the game. I don't like the Jets or Miami. And so all of a sudden, like 15 minutes or so into the game, in walks Hulk Hogan and his wife and his daughter. And my friend, elbows me, "Look, Hulk Hogan." Now, prior to this, he was the biggest celebrity in the box. I mean, of course, it was all millionaires. But all the millionaires wanted to meet my friend because he had to wear the gold medal. That was the deal. You have to wear the gold medal to get in the box. So they're all shaking his hand. "Oh, gold medalist." And he's introducing me as his chief of security. I'm nobody. I'm just eating all the shrimp cocktail I can and drinking their beer. So, all of a sudden Hulk Hogan walks in, and he's like, now all these all these filthy rich people are tripping over themselves to shake Hulk Hogan's hand. And he's coming down the receiving line, and, he's shaking hands. And he's, I never met him before. I never saw him live. He's just like you see him on TV. I'm sure you guys met him. He's bigger than life. His hands are the size of basketballs. And he talks like he does, in the third person. This Hulkster this and the Hulkster that. And he comes down the row, and he gets to my friend. He's like, "Hey, Hulk, Jason Reed, gold Olympian." "Oh, brother, that's great." And he gets to me, and I'm like, I got cocktail sauce in him. I'm like, "Hey, Hulkster, I'm nobody. I'm with him." I go, I'm just a trooper." He goes, "Oh, don't say that, brother. We love you guys." I go, "But I'll tell you a funny story." He goes, "What's that?" I go, "Remember when the Iron Sheik and Hacksaw Dugan got locked up?" He goes, "Yeah. I go, "Well, that was me." He goes, oh. So all right. So the fanfare settles down a little bit, and we all go to our separate areas and started watching the game a little bit. Now, unbeknownst to me, because I wasn't watching the beginning of the game, his daughter sang the national anthem. So I guess Fox and ESPN, whoever the channels were, converged on him because his daughter just started a reality TV show or something about Brooke Hogan or something. So they all converged on him to ask him about, his daughter, yada, yada. And he must have sent out get well and best wishes to Vince McMahon, because Vince McMahon apparently just had surgery and was in a hospital recovering from surgery. Okay. So, all right, fast forward back to present. We're in the box 15, 20 minutes ago. He comes over, and I'm sitting there, and he puts his hand on my shoulder. He's like, "Hey, brother, can I talk to you for a minute?" And I go, "Yeah, sure, you can talk to me." He goes, "Come on over here." And I go, "You're not going to beat me up, boy." He goes, No, come here, I want to talk to you. So I go over to the corner with him. He goes, "I just want to let you know, the Hulkster never messed with drugs." He goes, "I had my bout with alcohol back in the 80s, but I never messed with drugs." I'm sitting there thinking, like, this guy's explaining himself to me. I'm like, I don't give you light a joint right now. I'm so happy to be here, So as he's talking to me, and, we're just shooting, and his phone rings, and it's Vince McMahon. And Vince McMahon apparently was watching Monday Night Football from some hospital, I think in Atlanta or something, and he saw Hulk, wish him get well, best wishes. So he was calling Hulk to thank him for that. And all of a sudden, Hulk goes, "Hey, Vince, I got the trooper here locked up the Sheik," and he hands me the phone. So I'm like, Hey, Mr. McMahon, how you doing? He goes, Trooper, I want you to know we're glad you did that. They gave us all a black eye. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, I bet you're glad we did that, But okay, Mr. McMahon, I'm glad we can help. And so I give him back the phone, and that was I asked him if he knew Paige Falkenberg, Diamond Dallas Page. I said I went to high school with him. He goes, yeah. I think he married a porn star. I go, oh, he did? I don't know. I lost contact with the guy. But then I'm so excited and so jazzed up. I want to, call my ex-girlfriend and tell her, that I'm standing here with Hulk Hogan. And I go, Hulk, would you say hi to somebody for me? Yeah. So I get her on the phone, and she's already pissed at me because, I'm at Monday Night Football in the owner's box with the Olympian, and she's not there. Yeah. And I get her on the phone. I go, Marilyn, I'm in the owner's box. I got somebody here who wants to say hi. And she's like, all right. And so I hand him the phone. He goes, what's her name? I go, Marilyn. He goes, hey, Marilyn, Hulk Hogan here. You got yourself a good man. And I hear her go, get the out of here. She's not buying any of it. So that was pretty much how that night went. And, after that, the fanfare settled down. And, he was a very nice guy.
Well, you're talking to two Jet fans from New York. Did the Jets win that night, or who the remembers?
I'm a Steelers guy, and I'm not even a Giants fan, but I don't know.
Pick.
I think the Jets did win that night.
Oh, there we go.
You mentioned earlier that you kind of felt bad after knowing what happened. Duggan, who's come publicly saying that kind of ruined his career, right? Because he was at that point getting a really major push. And so here's my one question was, as a trooper, are you allowed to go in the car and look through the boots of the Sheik? I didn't understand how you were allowed to search the car.
Okay, well, it's a good question. First of all, long after that date, sometime probably in the mid to late 90s, they came out with, consent decrees, consent searches where you had to get permission, to search a vehicle. And if, most of the time, we're not going to search your vehicle for no reason. The trooper smelled the weed. He might have seen it in plain view. I don't even remember. I think Hacksaw had weed on him, but they were probably just got done burning one. And I got these guys off to the side. I'm keeping an eye on them while the other trooper's looking in the car. So I can only assume that he saw the boots, the Aladdin boots. Probably saw a plastic bag sticking out of them or something. I can't articulate absolutely what happened, but we were totally within our right. At that point, we had probable cause, There's open containers of alcohol, there's weed. So, yeah, we're going to look in your car.
Did you sense for even 1 second, I'm just curious, that they might not cooperate when they were placed under arrest?
Yeah, I never got that feel. And then,
Good.
Another trooper rolled up. And like I said, the three of us are out there now. So two of us are watching these guys. Again, it was so long ago. I do remember, I don't want to say, fear, but certainly remorse across, their faces like, oh boy, we're, and and consequently they were, no time did they resist or, be getting nasty or anything like that.
Okay.
Was there any point where Duggan might have said, hey, please don't do this, you're going to f*** up my career, like begging?
I don't recall that. I would imagine that was a conversation that was probably had in the troop car when he was transporting them. I don't recall him really saying much at all. And, except, oh, geez, kind of, remorseful kind of thing. But no, I don't recall them trying to use, again, when I positively ID'd the Sheik, and he's like, oh, yes, sir, with that accent. And I guess he thought that was going to, levy the pool there, but unfortunately that wasn't the case.
He didn't say I was WWF champion like 75 times? Nothing like that?
No.
He's been known to do that. That's why I was just asking, because he's been known to drop that.
No, they did not.
Okay.
They did not, to me, that I recall, 35 years ago, I don't remember them at all trying to get out of it at that point. I think they were hoping, that given who they were, that we'd slap them on the wrist. And you know what? It wasn't my call. I wasn't the trooper that stopped them. I wasn't the arresting trooper. I was simply the assisting trooper. And plus the other guy was senior to me anyway. So whatever he wanted to do, we're doing.
So let me ask you this. Would you have let them go if it was you being the arresting officer?
1987. Today, yeah. I wouldn't have let them go. I would have transport. I can't let them drive away now because they today. I mean, weeds is nothing. Slap on the hand. Drinking and drive is still a big deal. But they didn't appear, to me, visibly impaired. I mean, like it's not like they were stumbling, stupid, drunk. Of course, on them they have no choice. Right. But once you find the cocaine, I don't know. I don't think I could have let it slide on that.
Right.
So B40 out there is kind of stealing my thunder, but I'm going to give him credit for this. So story goes, they get arrested. They're like, you know what? No one's going to know about this. We're going to, pay a fine, and we're on our way. Who leaked the info to the press out of your office?
Again, as I said earlier, all I know is when he transported them back to the station, I'm sure he processed them, under the normal condition, procedurally went through the numbers. They didn't get a DWI, so clearly they weren't drunk. I don't know exactly what they were charged with. I never saw the report. I never followed up with it. But they told me the next day, I don't know who leaked it. Something like that happens, I guess, hey, look who's in the holding cell. Hey, before you know it, telephone, teletype, teletrooper. We have a saying,
But you agree under normal circumstances, if you had caught me and Farrow in a car and that happened, it wouldn't make the press. It's pretty much a misdemeanor, right?
Today or back then?
Back then.
No, I mean, cocaine was not a misdemeanor back then. I mean, it was, and I think there was like an 8-ball, so
right.
Yeah. So and even marijuana back then. I mean, you can be driving under the influence for drugs or alcohol.
Yeah,
so but obviously to prove marijuana, you'd have to take blood, to prove that you're over a certain limit. Or just by your psychophysical exam, if you're stumbling. But again, these guys, I don't recall them, being. I mean, they just got a car at Newark Airport. I think the backstory. The backstory I read about, which I didn't know at the time, was like I think Hacksaw rented a car. He offered the Sheik a ride or something, and everybody's all up in arms because they're supposed to be, enemies on the way to some kind of match in Convention Hall. So I think that kind of like upset the apple cart.
For sure.
So let me ask you this then. Mitch Seinfeld's asking, so if it's a felony, how quickly were they released? Because they made the next show with no issue.
It's a good question. I mean, they were probably ROR'd, released on their own recognizance. We did a thing called a green sheet. They get a, court appearance set. Apparently it wasn't enough to lodge them right then and there. Maybe somebody, made a phone call. Maybe I don't know. I don't know from the time they were cuffed and transported until, now, I don't know any more that happened except talking to the other trooper last week when he, told me the story about, taking them back and, the press being there the next day. So,
I mean, you understand where I'm coming with that. That's why I didn't mean to say misdemeanor, but I'm thinking this must not be big of a crime because they didn't spend any night in jail.
I'm with him.
They were released quickly.
I'm with him. I think that there might have been a phone call, but all we can do is speculate. That's what I think.
Yeah. I can't say for sure. I wish I knew the answer to that. Pete, if you're watching this, give me a call. Let me know.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, like,
and I agree with you.
Today, definitely you would be, released, unless you're resisting arrest or other, mitigating circumstances involved.
To hammer home your point about the marijuana, back in the late 80s, my friend went to court for a roach. You could get in big trouble for pot back in the 80s.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
It was all pretty heavy, potentially.
It was a different world,
Yeah, it was.
I mean,
it was.
The amount of pot I smell every night working at the bar, people on the beach, on the boat. I said, Pete, whatever did happen, you transported them back. And I think Hacksaw Dugan's father was a sheriff or something. I think his father was in law enforcement. And I think he might have brought that up. And the fact that, he took them back, he processed them. And then the next day he went to work, and that's when all hell broke loose with the TV stations and stuff.
Now, do you keep those boots as evidence? Were those boots held as evidence?
That's a good question. They probably did temporarily keep them as evidence because, that's continuity of evidence, we call it. That's, where they were stored or where it came from. It was a rental car, so I don't know if they impounded the car or had the rental. I don't really have any other facts for you guys. I wish I did.
I
All
was
I
just
can tell
saying,
you is,
if you could have got your hands on those boots and kind of they disappeared out of your evidence room, you could have had some real
Boy,
money
could
right
you
there.
sell that for a fortune.
you got some explaining to do.
comes with coke resin at the bottom of the heels. It would be worth a fortune.
Maybe that's why the Sheik was maybe lighter on his feet. I don't know, but I'm sure he wore them that day at Convention Hall.
Oh God.
Fans are saying out there that Duggan's father is a chief of police in Glen Falls. So
Okay, was that it?
you've had a good career. You're still living life. If again, how does it feel? Not that you're a wrestling fan, but how does it feel that you and others changed the face of pro wrestling? I mean, it is one of the
It's
most.
funny. I mean, I never even thought about it like that until last week when I talked to Pete, because Pete made mention of that, saying that after that happened, like really threw a monkey wrench, and like they had to go in a different direction because now people were beginning to think it's a lot of bullshit. Like these guys are mortal enemies. They're going to some kind of tag team grudge match, whatever they were doing, and here they are sharing a car, sharing some weed, sharing a drink. And again, didn't they bring the Sheik back as Colonel Mustafa or something like that?
They did. Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously we didn't. I guess we took them out of the fast track, but we didn't. Their career totally did bad. I mean, they were still involved, and again, Vince McMahon talking to him and said, "Oh, yeah, they gave us all a black eye," and I'm thinking to myself, "You brought him back. It couldn't have been that much of a black eye, but what do I know?"
Now hold on, I got to point this out. Duggan is saying that this incident wrecked him, right? This is 1987, right?
Correct.
Let me ask you a question. Who was the winner of the very first ever Royal Rumble?
Duggan.
What year was that, please?
I think 88.
1988. Yeah, really ruined your career.
Again, thank you guys. It was a pleasure. And in retrospect, I'm sorry it ever even happened. I mean, clearly you do something wrong, you have to be punished. But it's just a shame. And had you told me 35 years ago I'd be sitting here, I would have been like,
Right.
yeah.